Internets, I'm HamsterBomb.
And I'm Zach.
And this is HITBOX, the gaming podcast where we talk about video games. Get that?
Oh,
That's really unique. You probably never thought anybody would make a podcast about video games, and here we are creating that content for you. Today, we decided to make another one of those tournament-esque things where we go through a ton of games that are all sort of kind of fall into one genre, just to see if we can find one that might be the genre definer, or the game to beat if you're trying to make a game in that genre.
Yep.
Now, last time we did 2D platformers, and this time we thought, oh, the natural progression of that is 3D platformers, as the rest of the industry did. Unfortunately, though, this genre kind of vanished.
Yeah.
It's not really a thing anymore.
It was around for the N64, PS1 era.
Yeah, late 90s,
And
maybe
then
early 2000s.
in the early Xbox, GameCube, and PS2. But then after that, what I kind of found out when we were trying to come up with all the participants in this, a lot of 3D platformers, like, we don't get a lot of pure 3D platformers anymore.
Not anymore.
They all kind of evolved and got like other things attached to them.
Right.
So it's like we never stopped really getting 3D platformers per se.
Nothing sold as a 3D platformer.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, like, last time we had some people who were even commenting, like, why'd you add this game? It's not exactly a 2D platformer. We're like, well, it is a 2D platformer. Technically, it still is a 2D platformer. So in this sense, technically, this was even more so. Like, well, technically, it's still a 3D platformer. Well, I was still trying, and Zach is getting on me for this, I'm still trying to have these at 50 because once we get to the other genres, so like RPGs is one that I'm particularly scared of. When we get to that, narrowing it down to just 50 is going to be really tough. Filling it out to 50 when we're on 3D platformers is actually harder than you think. Yeah. Sure, there were a lot of these, but a lot of these were really hit or miss. And a lot were miss. There was a lot of games that went to the 3D jump and just died there. Because, boy, did they not understand. Like, there's a lot of things you gotta understand when you're trying to move from, designing a two-dimensional game to a 3D one.
Anyone
there's
remember
so much more you gotta do to it.
Yep. Anyone remember Earthworm Jim 3D?
Oh,
of course you don't.
No. Yeah, Earthworm Jim died there.
Oh, yeah, it did.
It's another one that's just like the game just did. It understood what it wanted to be from the 2D ones, but it just couldn't do it in 3D.
No.
So, anyway, there's a lot of games on this list, and we shuffled everything to make sure that when we go through these, it's going to be fairly randomized.
Yep.
So when we get through these, some of them are going to raise your eyebrow, like, why are you counting that as a 3D platformer? So because of how much we had to stretch this, we are just going to be looking at these games for how much does their 3D platforming, as in your actual traversal, jumping, and, just moving around the levels and environments, how does that elevate the game itself and make it better than the other?
Yep.
So, in which case, when we go to our first matchup here, which is weirdly enough Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Sunshine. Super Mario Sunshine would obviously be a 3D platformer you'd be thinking of as a traditional one.
Yes.
And Breath of the Wild, you might be like, what? So, Breath of the Wild was weirdly the first Zelda game where you could jump.
Yeah.
Like, with a button.
Yeah.
I didn't like that for some reason. I remember the old games and I thought, like, this is so weird. Why don't I have a button where I can jump? Even if it doesn't matter, I just want to be able to jump.
And now you get it.
And now I get it, because now I can jump. And yeah, it's kind of weird, because like it's kind of necessary to this game, because this is a game all about, I don't really want to say the platforming, it's like terrain management, almost like, and how do you ascend your physical character, either by paragliding or riding on wind updrafts or climbing, or occasionally jumping. You can jump. In order to, climb to new heights, see new things, and explore the huge environment. Yeah. So think of it that way when you think of it as a 3D platformer. How much fun did you have in Breath of the Wild, just in terms of, like, what it lets you do as you go and explore the world? Now, all of these games are technically also going to have combat in some way, so don't think like, oh, but you can run around and fight enemies and gather items and stuff in Breath of the Wild too. So you could also damage and fight enemies in Mario Sunshine.
Get coins.
Yeah, it's not. Don't think that they're too far apart, just because, like what Zach said earlier, the 3D platformer has just kind of started hiding in the background of a lot of games, and they push other things in the front. But at their core, they still have to be built on that same system.
I almost considered, since he had mentioned Breath of the Wild, I almost considered putting in Elden Ring.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because it's got a jump button, and when you get your mount, that mount can soar when it jumps.
Yeah, as opposed to like Dark Souls, where you are locked to the ground.
Oh yeah, and it's a weird button combo to even jump.
You can jump, but yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. But anyway, if I'm looking at this matchup of which one's the superior 3D platformer, well, I don't even have to think about it.
No,
it's Mario Sunshine.
Yeah.
Now, if you're asking me straight up which one's the better game, which one I had more fun with, I would have to stop and think, because that's closer. But no, I really enjoyed both of them. But I gotta say, it's absolutely gonna be Mario Sunshine as the platformer.
Oh yeah.
And that's really our goal with this. We don't want to like put any games down. We were trying our best to try and come up with a ton of 3D platforming games, and I'm sure we forgot some, as we inevitably will. We haven't played everything. We're sorry. We tried to play everything ever.
Now the thing is, also, I like to think I kind of keep up with the indie scene a little bit, but even then, there's been a bit of a resurgence of 3D platformers in the indie scene. But again, just haven't had time to even try them, or the money just to throw in indie developers. Like, give me more.
There's too many things coming out.
Yeah,
and we do have some indies on here. Actually, Psychonauts is one of them in our next pair up here. Psychonauts versus Portal. Now, Psychonauts is one you would definitely think is a 3D platformer.
Yep.
Portal, maybe not so much, but that is a puzzle platformer, and it is in 3D from first person.
There is a jump button.
And there's a jump button. It is a 3D platformer, just once again, not what you would think it as first.
Right.
Though it's how you solve your puzzles and how you play the game. Versus something like Psychonauts, which, now how far have you played in Psychonauts?
Oh, I beat Psychonauts.
Oh, good! Because I want to tell you a sorry admission of mine. I own Psychonauts.
Yes.
I tried to play Psychonauts.
Yes.
Okay, so apparently on Steam there's this glitch where in the very first level, you go through like the military guys the world, right?
Yeah.
And there's this part where you have to raise a flagpole.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to that part, and I'm like looking around, like, oh, the door's shut. Okay, I can't go backwards. I thought I did everything over there, and then I climb the flagpole, I climb up, look around, nothing happened. Okay, and then I started reading up online. Apparently, that flag is supposed to ascend with you as you climb the flagpole, and there's a chance that it just will not work on Steam, so it is not possible for me to beat Psychonauts.
You can't even uninstall it and reinstall it?
I don't know what the problem is. I haven't had time to like try and fix it, and it was so frustrating. I was like, whatever. So anyway, that's how far I got in Psychonauts. So as a 3D platformer, Zach, what did you think?
Psychonauts, hands down.
I know. I was at least like, I knew it was an important game enough to put on there and play, but
I want to play the second game so bad.
I know.
It looks so good.
It does, but instead we have silly games on here like Gex, Enter the Gecko. We put some on here just to make you laugh. I'm sorry.
Hey, Gex is...
I know. Yeah, Gex is like a smart aleck character from the 90s
who makes nothing but pop culture references as his sole base of humor,
which
is AKA me in real life. So
yeah, if you want Zach in real life just like constantly berating you as you're playing a video game and making weird references to things you probably don't even know, play some Gex.
Hey! Didn't think I was going to get compared to Dana Gould today, but okay.
It's either that or Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal.
I love the titles of the Ratchet and Clank games.
I know, they're pretty clever.
They're so good.
So Zach, I've played neither of these.
You played neither?
I've played neither of these.
Okay. For me personally,
I'm assuming it's Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As much as I do like Gex Enter the Gecko, it's more about the environment and like just kind of finding like the various doodads in the world. It's a very typical 3D platformer, where with Ratchet and Clank, not only is it about the platforming and the traversal of the different planets you get to, but the gunplay as well, which really helps to add certain tactics to your platforming. You have to take like where the enemies are, their positions, how high are you, can you like get to a vantage point. It's a lot more in depth than Gex, and I like it a lot for that. So that's my main reason why I think it's better than Gex as a straight up 3D platform.
I can see that.
Yeah.
And as we go through this, we're probably going to be weeding out a lot of the weird ones in here that we kind of put in here. You can probably see in this next matchup, Marvel Spider-Man versus Sly 3, Honor Among Thieves.
Heck yeah.
We have a very traditional 3D platformer, and then there's Spider-Man.
There's
To be fair, though, this is kind of a situation like Breath of the Wild. This is a big, popular game, and I was very surprised by how fun this is. This is... I was saying, you know, we should probably include this as a 3D platform, because I think the best aspect of this game, even though it's probably not sold on this, is the fact that you can seamlessly just leap your way from anywhere in Manhattan and sling your way, like, screaming between these giant buildings and just jumping all over the place. That is the most fun of the entire game, and it's not really designed... I mean, it's designed to obviously perform really well.
Oh, yeah.
But you're supposed to be going all over the place and fighting goons and, you know, delivering things and, you know, following the story.
Yes.
But that ends up being the most fun of the entire game, and it's the platforming. So it's funny that, like, the 3D platforming, like, ascended what that game was to me, because otherwise if you think about, like, the combat's not that great. You know, the story's actually pretty good. But...
Yeah, the story's cool, and it reminds me an awful lot of Arkham Asylum, the Batman games, in terms of its combat and its stealth. Yeah,
which I think too much so. It leans too heavily on that, and it kind of pulls it down.
I mean, it's not... I don't think it's that big of a detriment. It's just like one of those I've seen this before kind of things.
It got boring when I played the whole thing through. I was like, I wish there were more ways to take people down. But anyway, so I'm already kind of telling you here, I'm not going to lean towards Marvel Spider-Man. I just wanted to point it out, saying, like, this is a really fun 3D platformer, if you want to call it that.
Well, because I think that is one of the core aspects.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those new ones that, like, they have to do really good 3D platforming, so the other stuff works well.
Yes.
And I think if there were no web slinging around the place and, like, leaping on buildings and it worked as well as it did, the rest of the game would just be like, okay.
Yeah, it would almost be like a Grand Theft Auto clone with, like, a sort of, like, brawler aspect to it.
Yeah.
Which
I guess
is okay.
Yeah, with a weird web slinging.
But then we already had that with Arkham City and Arkham Knight.
Exactly. It would just be a weaker version of that.
You just have the gliding and the grapple.
So it's been such a long time. All the Sly Cooper games actually kind of blend it together in my head. 2
and 3 do tend to blend together a lot for me as well, because they both kind of jump the shark from being a linear obstacle course kind of game, like the first one was, to more open world, you know, thievery and skullduggery a little bit.
It's kind of fun.
But with the thing I like about Sly 3 is all the callbacks and, like, all of the different gameplay options you have, because you can play as some of the villains that are now your allies.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and so, like, you can fly a plane, you can actually dive underwater for buried treasure with one of the characters. And
I like that, like, they add more variety to the gameplay, but they're also letting you do more with the platforming itself.
Because it's still that 3D open world where you're trying to stealth around, you still have enemies with their limited cones of vision and stuff. And it's still about trying to progress and, like, rob the bad guys of their precious jewels and various things to get along. And I still think it performs it really well. You actually, you know, to quote, you know, all the what people call the lazy hack game reviewers, you feel like a real thief in this game.
Yeah, just the ones who don't actually play it, but still. I don't see this losing to Marvel Spider-Man, even though, you know, because that's like, it's designed as the core 3D platformer, you know, as opposed to Marvel Spider-Man doing other things.
Because, it's a 3D platformer first and foremost, with the thief stuff and, like, all the mini games and everything packed onto it,
You know, if they did make a true 3D platforming Marvel Spider-Man, which in this case I would say, like, you would need to go around and, like, just collect all sorts of stuff. Like, imagine, like, there is a photography part of that game where you have to, like, find certain scenes and, like, take selfies or take photos because he's a photographer. If that was, like, purely the game, then it's like you're technically going around and finding stars or jiggies.
Yeah, that's true.
You know? Then I would have a different conversation, and I would say, you know what, I don't think Sly stands a chance because it's so much more fun to platform in this.
Quick aside, there actually is an indie game called, I think it's called Umurangi Generations, where the whole point of the game is that you're a photographer in a cyberpunk world, and you're just trying to get some of the best pictures that you possibly can with some light exploration and stuff. So if you really want something kind of like that, yeah.
But if you want to be a photographer as Spider-Man,
you gotta play Spider-Man.
Oh, this is weird. Okay, so our next matchup is Ape Escape and BioShock Infinite.
Right, so why did you want to put BioShock Infinite here?
Well, here, another thing. As we mentioned in a previous HITBOX episode, actually the last one, right? And well, the sort of last one, 1999, part 1 or 2.
Part 1 or 2, yeah.
I'm not sure which part it was in. We talked about Ape Escape, and we talked about why I'm not able to play it, and why you probably never will either. So because of that, I haven't gotten to play this one. And you have.
I have.
But I've played Bioshock Infinite, and I don't think you have.
No.
So.
I played through 1 and part of 2, didn't get around to 3.
This is going to be You know what? It's a shame because Infinite is much better than 2.
Yeah, no, I know. That's
it's a completely
hearing,
different thing.
Yeah.
Now, imagine the original Bioshock, just to let you understand why I wanted to put this in here, because obviously this would probably be considered a first-person shooter, and it really should be. However, the interesting thing that Bioshock Infinite adds to this is you have this interesting, like, kind of like a rotating hook arm thing, and you can use it to jump onto these like rails that are all over different environments.
Yeah, the sky transportation rails.
Yeah, you can use them to either like, and while you're riding on this, you can keep free aiming and firing at people while you're fighting. You can leap off of them at any point, do melee attacks with it. It changes the game from being a Bioshock first-person shooter to all of a sudden this very mobile 3D platformer with enemies shooting at you. From first person. So it was something that I was like thinking about, like, yeah, that's like the most 3D platforming I've ever done in a first person shooter. Or like, where was that important?
Right.
But I still don't think it's important enough. This is another one of those like jokey chaff ones that's gonna get weeded out. So Ape Escape.
Yeah. It's Ape Escape.
It's Ape Escape. We'll talk about Ape Escape when it gets a real competition.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to point out and like justify why I put Bioshock Infinite on there.
No, and that's actually really interesting and really cool. But
it's probably the most fun part of the game too.
Right, but again, it's that situation where the platforming element kind of is tacked on to elevate the
and
first-person shooting.
newer games are just like that. They don't really design things like this anymore.
Not truly. Here we go.
Hey, here's a good one. We have Spyro the Dragon Reignited. We originally had on here Spyro 1, Spyro 2, Spyro 3, just to like try and get us to the end. And the more luckily we were able to fight with this, we got some more franchises.
And we kind of had to mold our expectations a little bit differently.
Yeah. Versus Enslaved Odyssey to the West.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know anything about this. Zach just, like, as we sat down, told me about this, and we, like, removed one game because we realized it was written on here twice. It was Ape Escape, by the way. And we had to put something else on here. This was your proposition.
A game so nice, we had to have it twice.
Yeah.
And then the program would not allow us to do so.
No, and I'll never be able to play that ever.
No, I know.
Unless, like, someone gets really creative with emulation.
Right. So, Enslaved Odyssey to the West. It came out around the time of when Uncharted was around, or was first around, and it's a very cinematic 3D action adventure kind of game, where you're supposed to play like as a version of the Monkey King from the Chinese novel Journey to the West, and so it's a very guided kind of thing. Like I said, it's a cinematic game. You kind of know where to go. Like if you see a bunch of rocks hanging out of a cliff, you know, oh, I press the jump button and I start climbing.
There's a bunch of vines going over one edge of a lightly lit part of a cliff. That's the climby part.
And the thing that kind of elevates the 3D platforming is the combat and the story that kind of helps to add I guess just a sense of awe, especially to the verticality that this game has, because you're like jumping between street signs on destroyed skyscrapers and stuff like that as you're going along.
However, before we get too far into it,
I
know we will. We want to try and keep this one shorter.
Yeah, I know.
Spyro the Dragon. Reignited.
I know, is a way better 3D platform.
And I know how much you love the Spyro games.
Absolutely.
I feel like there's no way. Like, he wanted to start with Enslaved first on purpose to, like, justify, hey, this is really great. But if we're talking about Spyro the Dragon Reignited, no.
No, absolutely not. The Reignited trilogy and any of the games in the original trilogy,
luckily, they're ported on basically all modern platforms.
Switch, Xbox, PS4, and you can play it on 5. And
which is like
PC.
the only way we really get like modern 3D platformers, remakes of old stuff.
Yeah. Or ports in the case of like the Banjo-Kazooie games.
It's so weird how like a whole genre just fizzled away and just became just a mechanic. You know?
Yeah, well, platformers kind of got replaced with cover shooters and then first-person shooters, basically.
Yeah.
At least in the console scene.
Anyway, Rocket Robot on Wheels, an interesting N64 throwback.
Heck yeah, it is.
And Tomb Raider, an interesting PS1 throwback.
Heck yeah, you're right.
Okay. How are we going to do this one?
All right, so Rocket Robot on Wheels. This is your typical 3D platformer. You find the MacGuffins, you find enough, you open the next world,
Yeah.
and you just get power-ups to help traverse the world better.
The old formula.
And the thing that makes it interesting is that they had a built-in physics system to where, like, there would be floating platforms, and as you jumped on it, the platform would actually shift with your weight as you moved around it. And in water, you're just like in any platformer,
Well, anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was new then.
Yeah, you actually could make ice, and you could like drift on the ice down rivers
That's
and
cool.
stuff. Yeah. Whereas with Tomb Raider, this is the 3D platforming serves to enhance the sense of exploration.
Right. The game was designed to be a third-person Tomb Raider,
Yeah, an
exploring
action-adventure
game.
Yeah.
Which, now a lot of games of this era really show their age in general.
Unfortunately.
But Tomb Raider is one of the more obvious examples of that, I think. These controls are just not good.
No, like double tapping.
I think you're still playing tank control, even though you're third person and the camera's like playing behind you.
Yes.
It's really awkward.
Yeah, and if you want to like move back, like if you want to jump backwards, you have to double tap the down button.
Yeah, I think we were dabbling this on my PlayStation Classic for a while, and like just struggling and laughing about how hard it was to even play the tutorial room.
Yes, yeah, and that's the terrible part.
I know. So if we're talking about like how good is the platforming in it, and the platforming in Tomb Raider is probably the worst part.
Yeah, it's Rocket Robot on wheels.
It's Rocket Robot on wheels. Now, I still am glad we got this series on here, though.
Yeah.
It's strange that, like, later we would get the Uncharted series kind of inspired by Tomb Raider, and then would overtake it in a sense where Tomb Raider, in, the modern ones, are just trying to play catch-up with Uncharted.
Yeah. Everyone complained about Uncharted being the Tomb Raider ripoff, and then Tomb Raider kind of ripped off the ripoff?
Yeah, they tried to go right back at it, and they could never really do it. They couldn't get those spectacles.
Now, don't get me wrong, I love Crystal Dynamics and their works, but it's just like, if I wanted to play Uncharted, I would just continue to play Uncharted.
Yeah.
Anywho.
Well, I only played one of these. 40 Winks or New Super Lucky's Tale?
Hey, I played both of these.
Okay, well, Zach, there you go.
All right, 40 Winks. So again, you collect MacGuffins, and the more you get, the more levels you unlock. And these are hub worlds, and each is designed around different dreams. Hence the title, 40 Winks.
Okay.
So like the first world is Nightmare, then there's a fantasy world, and then there's like a sci-fi, yada yada. And it's very much in the vein of Super Mario 64. You punch things.
What did this come out on?
PlayStation.
Okay.
It was all supposed to come out on the N64, but it got canceled at the last minute.
Oh, shame.
And there was magazine ads for this to be on the N64 as well.
Might have really, really helped its recognition, because I don't know what it is, but if it made it to the N64, pretty much everything on that library ended up being...
The funny thing is, they actually we did finally get a this game released physically for the N64.
Like
recently.
Like a leaked prototype or something?
No, I had the full game.
Oh my goodness.
Complete.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so someone actually bought the rights to it and actually are able to distribute it.
Oh,
so
that's
you can
great.
play it on your PC, or if you buy the cartridge,
Get a cartridge, slap that sucker in N64.
Don't even need the expansion pack.
That's
for
cool.
It. Yeah.
Versus the other game we have on here is another one of those indie games that's actually people are really making these nowadays.
Yeah, and
New
it's actually...
Super Lucky's Tale is a really charming game that looks like it could have been designed back in the 90s.
It really does, yeah, but it feels a lot more forgiving, and it feels a lot more welcoming than those games.
Yes, it's a designed for kids. A cute little fox. I think he's a fox.
Yeah,
he's
a
little character who
guy.
can just run around in a giant 3D world, collecting the things to open up new gates to go to the new things.
Yeah, it was an indie team that got bought up by Microsoft, I think, after their first game released for the Oculus. And it was a launch title for the Oculus.
Wow, interesting.
But yeah, it's your very typical 3D platformer where, again, you're going around, you're doing chores, basically, for people to help rebuild this world that's been messed up because of shenanigans and the bad guys.
Yeah, I don't remember a thing about the story. I just remember playing, I think I played the demo with Kim. Completely just to, check it out.
It's really fun.
It's pretty good.
And for me, it feels a lot better to control and to play versus something like 40 Winks. The one thing that I will say...
the modern controls really help with this.
Because with 40 Winks, and even back in the day when I first played it and still loved it, it felt kind of clunky and stiff to control your character. Yeah. And that's what kind of kills some of the 3D platforming. New Super Lucky's Tale, the thing I enjoy most about it is the digging aspect. You dig into the ground and you jump out, and you can
shoot out and you bring all sorts.
It's like you're literally swimming in dirt.
It is, yeah.
And I like that.
It's a lot of fun
so much. So yeah, New Super Lucky Tail I think is the best 3D platform. Yeah.
All right. So next we have Mirror's Edge and Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. Zach.
Oh my God.
I haven't gotten to.
You haven't played either of these?
Well, I've played a little Sands of Time.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Okay, Mirror's Edge is something I don't think that you would ever really be able to play. It is a first-person parkour game.
Oh, those are so nauseating.
Yeah, and the camera actually simulates Faith's eyesight as you're going along.
Nauseating for me. I need to clarify. I get very nauseous in first-person shooter games.
Yeah.
I don't mean the game itself makes me sick.
Oh no, it's a beautiful-looking game even now.
Yeah, I had to make sure that I was being clear. I wasn't saying that I thought the game was gross. Yeah.
No, it's a you thing. I get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, you ever wanted to do parkour, but you don't have the agility, the body strength, or the will to do it? Play this game. It's really fun. The thing I like about it is that it feels like a giant open world because you're going around the city as a courier trying to go against the man, you know? Mm-hmm. But the game subtly gives you hints on where to go and how to progress. So, like, you're running along a wall, it's white, and then in front of you, you see like a red drainage pipe. You know to grab for that and to climb up it. Mm-hmm. And as you go, you're seeing like other colored objects that kind of help you guide where you're supposed to go to help turn this game into a very speedy game. Like, even as a beginner, I'm able to like kind of blast through some of these levels pretty easily. Now, when the combat comes up, I'm not as good at like dodging the cops and all that and getting past their riot shields. But the more you play it, it's like a Sonic game. The more you play it, the better you get at the levels and the faster you can kind of get through, which is really cool. I've seen people speedrun this game and holy crap.
I could imagine.
Yeah, it's crazy. Versus Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time is an adventure game, first and foremost. However, it uses the 3D platforming to its advantage to really sell the fact that you are like kind of this adventurous, cocky prince in a 1001 Arabian Nights setting. What's really cool about it is that if you've played a lot of modern games like Call of Duty, Advanced Warfare, or Titanfall 2 or something like that, where you're running along a wall and you're like doing these weird, crazy jumps, you have this game to thank for that.
Yeah, when you were talking about Mirror's Edge with the parkour, I was like, that's kind of funny that these got paired together because that's Prince of Persia's thing.
Yes, and I think Prince of Persia, for a first attempt, even did it better than what Mirror's Edge would eventually do because of the
It's very
range
simple.
of,
Yeah, it's very simple and clear. Also, there is a time mechanic you can do with the 3D platforming that also elevates this a bit too. I think it makes it very interesting.
Right, takes the lives out of it. If you mess up by accident, you can just rewind enough so that way you can just start over. And it's always funny too when you die. The prince who's telling the story to you as you're playing is like, oh wait, no, that's not right. I didn't die here. It's like let me go back. And honestly, I think because of the wider range of movement you have in this game and the story and just the whole package.
Yeah, the story's great.
Yes, I think Prince of Persia: Sands of Time is a better 3D platform.
I agree. From what I understand.
Even better than like Two Thrones and The Warrior Within. Those just got real edgy and real dark for no good reason, but that was a 2000s thing. Anyway, what do we got?
Well, it looks like one of us put Prince of Persia: Sands of Time in again.
Huh.
How did that happen?
I'm not sure.
Okay, you know what? Let's pretend it's Bubsy 3D. Okay?
Bubsy 3D is a trailblazer, let me tell you.
Bubsy 3D, one of the best games ever made. Or Earthworm Jim.
It said so on the box. It's one of the best games of all time. It's Metroid Prime 3.
But unfortunately, we're going to have to go with the other game on here. I don't know how that happened, where that went in there twice, because when we inputted everything else, maybe something was spelled wrong when it was placed it, but I don't know. Whatever happened. But still. So we're looking at Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, and I guess Bubsy 3D. Well, Metroid, I didn't add these. This was Zach. Okay? Zach was saying that, yes, of course you're playing a large Metroidvania from first person and you're shooting things, but they're really important on how you're actually, like, platforming in this area, because think of the same reason that Super Metroid technically it doesn't really function without its 2D platforming and its traversal and how you're getting new gear to platform better and get farther and explore more places. That's what the Metroid Prime games do, but in 3D. And there's a lot of interesting things that they do in there. The first one more so with like coming up with neat tricks with the morph ball, like the boosts and everything in order to like go up ramps and stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, and in 3, there's neat stuff that they do with the Wiimote where you can actually like grapple onto stuff and like swing from it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool stuff. You have to like grapple and like yank stuff off enemies
versus
too.
Bubsy 3D.
Versus Bubsy 3D, which is obviously the best game in the.
Oh my god.
Okay, no. So it's kind of weird that happened twice, but hey, Prince of Persia: Sands of Time already moved on, so that was strange. We're gonna have some gimme rounds, I guess.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Weirdly enough, Wario World was the one that we last second put in, like as we were sitting in these chairs having to switch one because there was a duplicate. Versus Metroid Prime. Weirdly enough, and I actually kind of think this one over 3 is more interesting with its 3D platforming because it comes up with the new stuff of what you can do with Metroid in 3D and how to platform with it.
Yes.
Specifically like those boost ball tracks and how do you like do the space jump in a way that makes sense.
Exactly.
Come up with new ideas. Though, if we were looking at, and I can already spoiler, Metroid Prime 2 is not in this, so 3 is the one who gets credit for the screw attack. And I'm not a big fan of what they did with screw attack in 3D one.
Yeah, it serves its purpose, and I appreciate the fact that they kind of found a way to integrate it.
Yes, it needs to be there, but
it's such an overpowered move.
Oh yes, and it's so
just broke the game.
unruly. Yeah, it's unruly. If they really gave it to you as powerful as that really should be with like other M's control, where you're third person already, just let me go in any direction, but maybe I can't like jump up constantly. Just keep me at this level. It's still overpowered.
Yes, exactly.
But anyway, Wario World is up against.
Yeah, is up against Metroid Prime. So Wario
Nintendo
World.
Wii?
No, Wario
GameCube?
World was GameCube.
GameCube.
Yeah, it was the only 3D Wario game that I know of.
Oh yeah.
Because everything has kind of gone to WarioWare.
WarioWare, yeah. It used to be Land. We had some Land games, and then Ware kind of took over.
Sad to
This
say.
is kind of like the last of like the Wario Land series, but like trying to make it in 3D.
Yeah, so the whole thing is like there's 3D platforming in it, but it's not the focus. It's more of a brawler, which is like makes sense because it's Wario.
Right.
He's known for his combat
It
abilities.
kind of was the same way in Wario Land. It was more about brawling and puzzle solving than it was platforming.
Exactly. So, because the thing is, there are kind of like what would happen with Mario Odyssey. There are little crevices that you can find where Wario can butt bounce down inside to actually find gems and such that are needed to get 100% completion.
Yeah,
and it's like 3D Mario Land in the fact that you rotate the camera at certain angles and you can actually platform your way around to get to where you need to go, which is really cool. But again, it's not the focus. It's kind of there to elevate the brawling aspect because you can jump, pile, drive.
Same thing could be said
stuff.
about Metroid Prime. So now we're just going to say about just looking at the platforming.
I'd still say it's Metroid Prime.
Yeah.
Because the platforming in the main game of Wario World is practically non-existent.
Which is kind of a means.
It's a means to an end, yeah.
I see.
What do
Anyway,
got
we
next?
have Yooka-Laylee. No, we don't.
No, we don't. What happened?
I don't know.
Go back.
We have Yooka-Laylee and Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom!
The newest game on here.
Oh my god, I'm loving this game.
Okay, so, yeah, Zach has this. I don't have this yet. We don't have any money over here on HamsterBomb. So, you can... don't worry about it. There's too many things I'm playing right now anyway.
Many things, yeah.
Also, yeah, I can wait for a sale if I have to. But still, you can jump in this game.
You can.
And also, they added a lot of new stuff that makes the actual 3D platforming very interesting.
Yeah.
Your new abilities, like the dive through the ceiling thing.
Ascend, yeah.
Ascend. Yeah, that's crazy. You can still like 360 build, construct stuff.
Yeah, so
to
like
allow you to solve puzzles in new ways.
Yeah, and like if you're trying to climb a mountain or something and there's an outcropping and it's starting to rain, you can actually use the ascend ability and just go whoop. So you don't have to worry about falling while you're climbing. And also, just last night when I was playing, I found lizards that give you a sticky substance so you can make an elixir where you can stick to the walls better. And so when it rains, you just drink that and you just keep climbing.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a solution to a problem that didn't need to be there, but I'm glad it's there.
Well, you know, rain was really annoying in the last one.
Right.
So we're not going to spend this whole time trying to talk about Tears of the Kingdom because
right.
we're obviously not even done. We just know the bare bones of this. But hey, at the very least, we can compare it to Yooka-Laylee, which was sort of a modern, it's been a while now, redoing of Banjo-Kazooie by I believe most of the team,
A
right?
lot of the same team who left Rare to form Platonic, yeah. And so they...
The people who just wanted to make their silly animal 3D platforming games.
And the people who funded it through Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Now, what I understand is it kind of they did exactly what they said they were going to do on the Kickstarter. They made a 3D platformer from that era, warts and all, from what I understand.
Yeah, these all start bad when they're like, well, it did everything that the Kickstarter said, but there's so many sentences you can start like that.
Yeah. Which I still want to play it.
I do too. And
But-
yeah, spoiler, neither of us have actually gotten to play it yet. I've seen
No.
quite a bit of it. I've seen reviews. But yeah, I've seen why people don't like this as much.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a shame because I really wanted that to be great.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I wanted it to be more like a return to like a Banjo-Kazooie style 3D platformer.
In a
but
sense, it kind of is.
it is.
And almost so much so that it's ripping itself off a little too much.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it very much is a Banjo-Kazooie. You have like a bat character who flies in your backpack. Yeah, it's a little on the nose.
And that's perfect.
And ukulele,
fine,
you know,
yeah.
Banjo-Kazooie.
Haha. I still think the 3D platforming is more of the center of what the game is about. Breath of the Wild is just a means of
usually
traversal
Kingdom.
I keep saying Breath of the Wild.
too new, I'm telling you.
Or Breath of the Wild 2 is what I called it for so long because we didn't know.
That's what we all
was
called it for years.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, or rather, the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Is
Yes.
what Nintendo officially called it.
for years.
Yes,
Until
for
we were
years.
like, oh, it's called Tears of the Kingdom. And they acted like it's a spoiler. So far, I have no idea what it's a spoiler for.
Well, they were trying not to tell us anything about it because right when they were going to announce it is when the Queen died. And they didn't want to announce that their new game is called Tears of the Kingdom. Anyway, I knew we were going to get into random tangents on this.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway,
honestly,
I think-
the platforming of Tears of the Kingdom, though, is kind of like more so the focus than it was in Breath of the Wild.
It
But
is,
still, it
yeah.
feels kind of wrong to push that above an actual traditional 3D platformer.
That was
even
built.
if it, yes.
Yeah.
Even if it has its own warts of its own.
Yeah, but for right now, yeah, I would say just ukulele just because of what it is, yeah.
But yeah.
What do we got next?
Ooh, now we are strictly on the N64, Zach.
Oh, no!
Conker's Bad Fur Day, or Super Mario 64.
Oh, God.
Well,
My
we're
gut
talking
reaction-
about the platforming.
My gut reaction is Super Mario
It's Mario 64. But Conker's Bad Fur Day is hysterical.
Oh, it's such a blast.
It's actually a really fun platformer. However, some of the platforming bits I remember just being really frustrating.
Yeah, and more as the game goes on, the platforming kind of falls by the wayside as they just shove more and more references and crazy set pieces into there.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It's a drunken escapade across a weird fantasy
Absolutely.
land.
But yeah, like that
But-
farm level you have to get through, there's like so many platforming things where there's
Right.
a lot of stuff you
And
gotta
then
do
it-
that's just kind of rough.
And then it turns into a war shooter and a survival horror game.
Yeah, it keeps changing
Yeah.
what it is. It's more of like it's a parody of parodies.
Yeah.
And it just keeps on. It's hilarious. I
Oh,
love it.
absolutely. The
But
game
it's
is-
not a better platformer than Super Mario 64.
No, absolutely not. Unfortunately.
Unfortunately? Almost
it could have been,
maybe.
but who knows?
It would have been
Whatever.
a very different game if
Yeah,
they went
well,
that route.
it was going to be.
That's
and
true.
then-
It
yeah.
was, yeah. I read interesting
Anyway,
history.
what do we got
Well,
next?
we have SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom,
Woohoo!
which I decided to put in here because
Yeah.
it's actually a really good 3D platformer. Versus Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus.
Heck yeah.
So this is a
I-
weird little matchup. Have you played both?
I have not. I've only played Thievius Raccoonus. I didn't even play the rehydrated version of Bikini Bottom.
I've got it on Steam if you want to dabble the thing, but
Oh, sure.
honestly, there was something about it that I just. Maybe it's because I actually played the GameCube one twice, and I think 100% in one of the runs too. There's something about like that game that I still really enjoyed, but rehydrated something felt wrong.
That's what I heard. A lot of people kind of said that something was either missing or something just feels off, but no one could really put their finger on it.
Yeah, it's almost like a little too cartoony, a little too plasticky. Something. You know how like modern SpongeBob is just a little off-putting, and old
It is,
SpongeBob
yeah.
is like perfect for so many people.
Yeah.
And you can't really explain why. It's like that. It's like
Okay.
it's like all of a sudden like they're saying the same jokes. It's all the same stuff, but something feels wrong. So
Yeah.
I wrote on here it's the original, even so we don't even have to
Okay.
go there. But even still, you have like a main hub world in Bikini Bottom by SpongeBob's house and the neighborhood area.
Yeah.
And you can go out into different worlds that are basically like levels themed off of certain episodes. There's like a kelp forest. You can go to like the Krusty Krab.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's like all
Yeah.
like
Bikini Bottom downtown.
Yeah, the depths area, the dark area, that all of those places you can go to, and they have like different themes, and you kind of like play through episodes and make all sorts of jokes.
Yeah.
It's great.
Because it's like a Mario 64 kind of game where you're
It
trying to
is.
collect like certain
Golden
tuppence, right?
spatulas or something like that, I think, and like new pairs of underwear for health and all that. So yeah, it's actually it's using the Mario 64 design, but it's like putting in an IP to it.
Yeah.
And it actually works really well.
Yeah, it looked like a lot of fun. I just never got to it as a kid. I was more like, yeah, just give me Mario and Zelda, I'll be fine.
And I don't remember which Sly Cooper game I got to play on hand. I didn't even put it on my resume because it wasn't like, if I can't nail down which one it was, I'm
Yeah,
not
it's
gonna remember.
not worth it, yeah.
No.
No, Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus is, that's the one that's more like a 3D gauntlet in order to, progress through the world. There's no real hub world and all that. You just kind of go from level to level. Which is fine. And I really appreciate that kind of design because that speaks to me from my childhood with Crash Bandicoot and stuff.
Also, that's what the 2D games always did.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to have levels going out in every direction.
No, that would be too much if every single 3D platformer did that.
It's also trying to kind of tell a story at the same time in Sly Cooper, so it doesn't really make sense.
Right, exactly. And the challenge
Unless you made like an Arkham City Sly Cooper game. If you can imagine.
They did with 2 and 3, more or less.
Really, yeah.
Yeah, that's what those games are. Those
That's
are
kinda
open
cool.
world, yeah.
Shows what I know. I guess I did play the first one then.
It's perfectly fine.
That makes more sense, because what I played I think was more linear.
Yeah, that's this one. But in terms of like what it looked like that you could do, like to kind of express yourself in terms of being a 3D platformer, I don't know, it kind of feels like Battle for Bikini Bottom is a little bit better in that regard.
It's weird. It's kind of like a definitive 3D platformer. It just happens to be SpongeBob, and it happens to be a licensed game.
I mean, and it's a good game.
It is. It's actually a really good game. And we gotta get a move on.
Yep.
Now, I know this first gauntlet always takes the longest because we have to talk about the games for the first time.
Yeah.
Kirby and the Forgotten Land and Superliminal.
Kirby and the Forgotten Land for me.
Kirby and the Forgotten Land is so good.
Oh
But I do want to briefly, talk about Superliminal, why I wanted to put this on here.
Yeah, go for it.
Because I had to stop and think, that's technically a 3D platformer, even though it's like this weird first-person perspective game where you grab and analyze objects and stuff, and based on where you drop them, it will be at a different perspective, and it might be back in space, and now you made something huge, or you shrunk it down, and you use that concept in order to 3D platform your way out of puzzles.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting, it's really creative, but I'm sorry, Kirby and the Forgotten Land is amazing. I've played, actually I reviewed Kirby and the Forgotten Land. I didn't get to play it with you guys on stream or anything, but I did play the entirety of Superliminal, if you ever want to check that out.
Yeah, I watched you play a good chunk of that. I think I watched as you guys beat it. And it kind of broke
you
my
watched
mind.
Kim beat it downstairs. Yeah, I beat it on stream.
Yeah. It kind of broke my mind. I'm like, what? What do you do? Why? Okay, whoa. Just all the different tricks that they threw at you.
Yeah, it's trippy.
Yeah.
It keeps coming up with new things all the time. It's really cool.
Yeah, I can see why you would want to include that, like Portal.
Moving on to our next one we have here is Donkey Kong 64 versus Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, the only Donkey Kong game to ever get into 3D.
Ooh, banana.
Yeah, Banana Slamma. Unfortunately, we still don't have that rumored Nintendo game made by the Mario Odyssey team making a 3D Donkey Kong for the first time since that game.
Don't get me wrong, guys. I want that as much as the next guy, but cool it.
I know.
It's gonna be okay.
Yeah, if they make it or not, I don't care. If they make Odyssey 2, I'm gonna be thrilled. If they make Donkey Kong
64
Odyssey, who
too.
cares?
Yeah.
I will be thrilled. I don't care. I just want more games.
I just want more Donkey Kong
As
games.
if we only have most games are overflowing with options in their genres, and as you can clearly tell from how we're reaching in this video, 3D platforming really needs help here. And I think I do that with Donkey Kong. You saw how Mario can do that. Figure out how to make that with Donkey Kong. That'd be amazing.
Oh, I know.
Because it's definitely an N64 game. If we're gonna try and describe it, it's kind of showing its age, though. It's very large.
Yeah.
Its size. It's got multiple characters, all sorts of things you can do with them, but they're more combat based than they are for their platforming.
Yeah. The one thing that always bugs me, that started to bug me about Banjo-Tooie, but more so in Donkey Kong 64, is that the amount of collectibles and the character swapping that was needed.
Yeah.
Like, the platforming
It's like it was
okay.
time-consuming in its own right.
Yeah, like, it kind of hindered my want to 3D platform and explore. Because I'm like, look, I already see the blue bananas. Why do I have to be Lanky Kong? I'm standing here as Diddy Kong looking at them.
Yeah. Kind of weird. Versus Sonic Adventure 2 Battle.
Yep.
So this, we actually didn't put Sonic Adventure in here, just because I kind of think 2 is the one to talk about if we're going to talk about
it
the
feels
one that
a little
really...
bit better to play for me, yeah.
Yeah, and this is, well, we did actually just recently talk about Sonic Adventure in the 99 video, so you can go back and listen to that one. But in 2, this is also linear levels, and you're getting scores at the end of them.
Yes.
So similar to original traditional Sonic levels, except this is really cleaned up with how it's got like the speed up ramps. There's very cinematic bits, like the opening, you're actually running away from a giant truck chasing you down this huge city.
That was so cool.
After you're done skateboarding down, like, oh, it's so neat.
San Francisco.
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool set pieces and segments in this, and I gotta say, just already from looking at this, it's better than Donkey Kong 64.
Yeah, I think so too. Because the thing I appreciate is the fact that they kind of like consolidated the gameplay modes. There's only the 3: the speed, the exploration with Knuckles and Rouge, and the kind of a linear shooting gallery with Tails and Eggman.
Yeah, which were fun to like shake up the gameplay, and
Yeah.
I feel like each one of them kind of did its own thing to keep you interested, and it's all like based on the core of 3D platforming.
Yes,
It's just
exactly.
different concepts of where can you take that, which is really neat.
And no fishing, which could be a loss depending on who you are.
Yeah, instead you have Chow Gardens. And
Chow Garden is better.
Yeah.
Anyway, what do we got?
So anyway, we have Infamous versus Grow Home.
Ooh, there we go.
I was actually... Infamous is one of those games that I played with a friend briefly and never got a chance to actually own myself. And I haven't even played Grow Home, so Zach, tell us.
This is a me thing again.
Yeah, this is a you thing.
So Infamous came out around the time when superhero sandboxes were kind of becoming big, and this is a sucker punch game.
Oh yeah.
This is like their second. This is like their second franchise that they started after Sly Cooper, or third rather, because they did Rocket, and then they did Sly Cooper, and then Infamous. So you play as Cole McGrath, who through shenanigans get lightning powers. And you can use those lightning powers to hover, you can climb up buildings really quick, and it's
Superhero Sandbox really kind of tells you everything you need to know.
Exactly. It's kind of reminds me of what we would eventually sort of kind of get with Marvel's Spider-Man.
And Prototype, too, I think.
And Prototype, yes. That came around the same time, yeah. Developed almost exactly at the same time.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that weird?
I
actually, for the longest time, I had those games combined in my head until I realized they were different.
It's very easy to kind of conflate them on the surface. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
And it uses the 3D platforming to its advantage to kind of give you that power fantasy of being an electric superhero, which is so cool. Whereas Grow Home, you play as a clunky little robot called Buddy, and his animations are on-the-fly generated. And the whole point of the game is that you have fallen out of your spaceship onto a planet. And the whole point of the game is you're trying to take these seeds and grow them to become giant plants that kind of crisscross and go everywhere up into the sky. As you kind of platform around them, you can climb and everything. And he is such an adorable little dude. His name is Buddy. And he's so cool. And that's the whole point. You're literally growing plants to get home.
I see. To grow back home.
And the 3D platforming is there to facilitate the exploration, I think.
Shoot. So where do you think that takes you?
Well, the thing is, it's a lot easier for me, I think, to express myself and Grow Home because the growing is not scripted.
Really?
Yeah, and you actually can grow however you want, however many plants you can find, to be able to get to the higher islands and eventually, to get home. And you kind of express yourself in that way. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to grow this right into the side of this island that's in the sky and just climb my way up. Or I can bounce on the leaves that are on this plant. And just kind of be able just to freeform platform your way.
Versus Infamous, which is more so buildings are there to stand on.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I would say Grow Home for me is the better 3D platform.
That sounds fair.
Yeah. It's got a sequel too, which is also really cool as well. So give those a shot. They're really cheap usually. What do we got next?
Ooh, Jet Set Radio Future versus Portal 2.
Ooh, dude, I love Jet Set Radio though.
Kim really loves it too. In fact, she's pretty upset that there's like no good way to play that game.
I know. You have to either like at this point, because they still haven't really done much. Well, no, there is an HD version, but I don't know if it's available for the original Dreamcast version.
Well...
that sucks.
That's if you got a Dreamcast laying around.
Or original Xbox.
There's the original Jet Set Radio on Steam, but...
Yeah.
That's it.
But not Future, which is the better version of...
Did we actually discuss Portal yet?
We discussed
the first one?
Portal 1.
Portal 1?
Yes,
Okay.
I believe.
I guess. I'm surprised that Portal 1 and Portal 2 got on here, but I guess, once again, we were trying to fill.
Well,
sorry.
Well, with Portal 2, though, it adds so much more.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot more. Like, there's the light bridges, there's the different gels for propulsion, speed.
And bounce, yeah.
Well, that's the propulsion.
I thought the propulsion one was the blue stuff that let you go zip on by. Or am I thinking of something else?
I don't know.
Anyway,
but
there's blue and orange gels.
There's a blue and orange gel to go with your blue and orange portals.
That's right.
And one go bouncy, one goes fast.
That's right.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So I still see that working, but I mean, Jet Set Radio is kind of like the 3D platform. Well, kind of. Yes.
No, it's a 3D platform.
Yeah.
It's just you're on skates. That's the difference.
Right.
You're on rollerblades. And you're still like jumping, grinding your way around the city and graffitiing everything. I still think it's a really cool way to express yourself in that regard.
Oh no. Super Mario Odyssey versus Mario Sunshine.
Odyssey.
It's sad to see Sunshine go.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Odyssey is objectively a better 3D Mario game.
Yeah.
I think Mario Sunshine's great. Most of the internet actually likes to crap on that game. I think it's great.
I think mainly because we found out recently that the game was unfinished, and they just kind of rushed it.
I didn't know that. We'll have to talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Okay,
anyway, what do we got?
Psychonauts versus Ratchet and Clank up your arsenal.
Psychonauts.
Yeah,
for
I
me.
agree.
Well, because I think it's a lot easier to express yourself in the 3D platforming. The levels are a lot more interesting for the platforming aspect, whereas Ratchet and Clank just the combat facilitates more the 3D platforming or vice versa. So yeah, Psychonauts.
Banjo-Tooie or Sly 3.
Ooh, gosh, I'm not the biggest fan of Banjo-Tooie.
Me neither.
I liked it enough.
I don't think it's because of its platforming, though. I think it's more of, like, they made the levels a little too big.
Yeah.
The world's kind of grossly darker in a way that's, like, pushing it a little too far away from what Banjo-Kazooie was.
And the thing that kind of annoys me, in hindsight, I kind of see where they're going with. The worlds are interconnected.
Yeah.
And so, but it only serves to facilitate the finding of certain jiggies.
It makes me kind of wish that we did have like a Grunty's Castle again and just give me more worlds to jump into. Maybe it's easier for me to compartmentalize or something.
Yeah.
But like just jumping into Tooie.
Yeah, because I appreciate the like sort of like insular nature of the levels of the first Banjo-Kazooie.
Yes.
Where you could just go in, 100% it, and leave.
Yeah,
you don't have to worry about
like Mario 64.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like if you wanted to, you could just stay in that room with that Bob-omb painting and 100% it and go.
Yeah, exactly. But with Sly 3, like I said, it's fun, and I really appreciate the fact that you can express yourself in how you sneak around, and even in certain like story missions, like it still takes place in the open world. You just have to figure out how to get to where you need to go.
Where are you feeling?
Tooie.
Really?
Yeah, it's not the 3D platforming itself.
It's gonna get knocked out later for sure.
Yes,
but
it's not the 3D platforming itself. I have the issue with it's everything else attached to it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, Ratchet and Clank,
a crack in time
versus another one of those ape escapes. No, I'm sorry, this is not the one that.
This is the ape escape that
this
got
is
in
the
there twice.
ape escape that that escaped and ended up showing up twice.
Time travel shenanigans. Ape escape for me.
Yeah.
Because it's just so much fun just to use the gadgets to actually platform, whereas again in Ratchet and Clank
we kind of just discussed this, luckily.
Exactly.
Anyway, Rayman 2. I think we just discussed in a recent Hitbox episode how Zach has a real soft spot for this game.
Oh my god, I love this game.
But it is now up against another soft spot. Happy place for you. It is Spyro the Dragon Reignited.
Okay, where do you land first? Because I think I already know where my heart is.
Personally, Spyro.
Spyro.
Yeah.
I think so too.
It's gonna be Spyro.
Yeah, because with Rayman 2...
Even if I'm just looking at Spyro 1, because I'm actually not a huge fan of Spyro 2 and 3.
Oh, 2 is my favorite out of the original
Really?
trilogy.
Well, I gotta get farther in them. I've only, like, started the beginnings of those.
I see.
Versus the first one I wanted 100%, which I almost did. I think I needed your help with, like, the tree level. And the flying things kind of drove me bonkers because they were nothing like the rest of the game. But, anyway.
I did it.
Yes.
The old reflexes kicked in. But what do we got next?
Next is Uncharted 2 versus Rocket Robot on Wheels. Our first Uncharted is actually showing up in here.
Yep, and I say Rocket is a better 3D platformer.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, because
now we didn't really get to mention much about Uncharted.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Really being a 3D platformer, because it is. If you think about it, you just happen to have a shooty shoot in your hand every once in a while.
Yeah.
But the set pieces and stuff in Uncharted 2, with what you got to do in terms of 3D platforming, think about like how many bits like. I think you mentioned earlier, like there's a helicopter shows up and shoots a rocket at a building. That you're in this building fighting guys, and you slide now out of the building, dodging the office furniture, jump out of the windows, and now have to run across like the fire escapes and leap across buildings while dodging this helicopter. And really think about it, you're playing a 3D platform
in real time. This happens in real time with only one cutscene.
Yeah, there's not really cutscenes here. You're just you are playing the most high-stakes 3D platforming that you can imagine. Uncharted does an amazing job at this.
Right.
And I'm shocked you want to put Rocket Robot on Wheels ahead of it.
Because I think the core of it is the 3D platforming.
Okay, so you're saying like of the game to beat of what's the definitive 3D platformer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because with Uncharted 2...
Even though Uncharted 2 I think does an amazing job with it.
It absolutely does. But it's there to, again, facilitate the exploring of ruins, the fighting against the goons and all that, the Indiana Jones stuff. So
good point. Yeah, you got me there. So it's almost like they wanted you to be able to play the cutscene. Exactly. And the cutscene happened to be a 3D platforming level.
Exactly.
But still, got into this video and helped us get to 50. Lego Star Wars Complete versus new Super Lucky's Tale.
Yeah.
I've actually not gotten to play the Lego Star Wars.
Oh, you haven't? I think you'd
I've
like
seen
that.
a good amount. I've actually seen the speedrunning video that
Summoning Salt
did on that. But I've not actually hands-on gotten to play those.
They're very fun. Again, it's not really so much about the 3D platforming as it is kind of the beat 'em up and the collection mechanics.
Yeah.
And
you just happen to 3D platform in it, so it sounds like it's Super Lucky's Tale.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, Lego Star Wars.
Yeah. Oh, I love Lego Star Wars. You guys can get the complete version, like I said, which comes with the 2 games that they originally released as, the original trilogy and the Saga Begins or whatever, and combined it all into one.
We have Super Mario Galaxy and Prince of Persia Sands of Time.
Now, this is a tough one, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah. Mainly
because, I don't know, Mario Galaxy kind of reimagines what you can do as a 3D platformer. Well, Sands of Time kind of did that, too.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, they're both very innovative for that.
One more for the parkour, and the other for the more fantastical elements you can kind of add to it.
In a gravity-based 3D platforming.
One more time-based one, the other gravity-based, yeah. Oh, this is hard. This is a difficult one for me.
Yeah? I'll let you choose then. Because, like I said, I've only dabbled in Sands of Time.
Yeah, because I know you would have to, by default, say Galaxy, which is a phenomenal game. But in order to be the 3D platformer to beat...
What's the definitive 3D platformer to beat?
It would be Galaxy, I think.
Yeah, it's...
As much as I absolutely love this Prince of Persia Sands of Time, you could probably argue more that that's more of an action-adventure kind of game.
That's what I was actually just thinking.
Yeah,
like, when we get to action-adventure, it'll probably pop back up again.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about that.
We'll see. What about Mario Galaxy 2? I've not played this one. And Metroid Prime 3 Corruption.
Not Metroid.
No, not Metroid. It's Mario Galaxy 2.
Mario Galaxy 2.
Like, of course, this was us weeding those out. I think Prime 1 is the better 3D platformer if we're just looking at that.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, speaking of which, here it is again. Up against Ukulele, which, I was just saying, it's going to be Ukulele then.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
actually, I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
No. Okay, so
hold on,
hear me out.
Though.
Hear me out on this.
Yeah.
What gives you more interesting traversal in this?
Yeah, not only that, I'm thinking, like, which one actually not only just did something for the genre itself, which one is actually, like, just higher quality as a 3D platformer?
I think it's Metroid Prime, counterintuitively.
I kind of think it is. Yeah, that's weird, because we will do, like, a Metroidvania, we'll probably call it a search action, one of these later, and it will be in there, too. But, yeah, I kind of think you're right, because, I mean, like, the boost ball, the spider ball was also a thing.
Yep.
There's so much you could do.
The double jump, the morph ball. Where with Ukulele, I think it's more... It is a 3D platformer at heart. However...
Like collecting the pages.
Yeah, the pages for the bookie or whatever.
Yeah,
and then,
right.
But I don't know. I think I did try this. And what I played was okay. Mm-hmm. It tried to recapture something that is not capturable. I think you're right. And I think that
it feels kind of weird to push it forward, but just because it's first and foremost trying to be that genre.
Right.
As opposed to Metroid Prime isn't doing it first and foremost, but it's just doing it really well.
Right, and I hate to kind of flip-flop.
Yeah.
But there's
I even
always
love, like,
those
the
weird
switching visors where you could just like see different types of platforms, but you're also trying to like deal with the terrain.
Yeah, and that helps you with different platforms. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, what do we got next?
Next we have is Uncharted 4 versus Super Mario 64.
All right, you played Uncharted. You played both. I have yet to play Uncharted 4.
So
I have it. I have it as part on Steam, fortunately. So
luckily, I did review Uncharted 4. Weirdly enough, I didn't review Super Mario 64 yet.
That's really strange.
I'm getting around to it. I clearly, like, when I review stuff for my seasons, I try and jump around from console to console, different ages. I review stuff from all over the place. And I have not hit Mario 64 yet. Yeah, though, Uncharted 4 is not a definitive 3D platformer. That one more so, even over Uncharted 2 and 3, you're really just playing a movie. Though what you do with the platforming itself is very much refined from the previous ones.
Yeah.
You have a grappling hook that also helps a ton. There's a lot of neat things you can do with it, but still, there's no universe where it is a better 3D platformer than even Mario 64.
Exactly.
No. Jak and Daxter, or SpongeBob, Battle for Bikini Bottom.
Oh my god, okay. I would have to give this to Jak and Daxter.
I got a feeling that's what was going to happen here.
Yeah, again, it's more of a open zone kind of 3D platformer, so it's not fully like open-ish levels like Mario 64 and all that. Like, you have different hub worlds, and the world is seamless. Like, you can go level to level, and there's no loading, which is really cool. And this is cool. Like a near launch title for the PS2. So based on, and it's just so much more fun to control Jak and Daxter, I think, personally, than SpongeBob in some regards.
Oh yeah, SpongeBob never really felt quite right, but
it was.
He
really
worked
good.
for his world that
exactly.
he needed,
exactly,
which is good enough.
Here we go.
A Hat in Time versus Kirby and the Forgotten Land. It is such a shame that A Hat in Time got paired up against
Kirby,
that banger of a game. Because I bet we're gonna watch it go down right now. Because I'm sorry, Zach, I think it's Kirby.
I would almost argue it's A Hat in Time.
Really?
Almost, yeah.
Really?
Okay, so why do you think it's Kirby and the Forgotten Land?
Well, because I haven't hands-on gotten to play Hat in Time, even though I want to.
Okay.
I've seen quite a bit of it. I think I actually wrote it on our list. But still.
So then, what about Kirby and the Forgotten Land? Do you think makes it a better game based on what you know of A Hat in Time?
As it's platforming alone, I just know that there's unfortunately like a little bit of that indie jank in A Hat in Time, as opposed to like the AAA stuff you're gonna see out of like Kirby. And I know that's unfair, but we're looking for the definitive one here.
Right.
And if that is truly what we're looking for, I feel like Kirby in Forgotten Land in 3D has solved so much of why Kirby hasn't made that jump for so long. He doesn't jump forever anymore.
Right.
He'll actually like start to fall when he'll like try and jump and puff for too long.
Yeah.
The combat alone of what you're trying to like switch up with different abilities and try and like keep certain abilities.
And hit detection is really good.
It's
in that,
very, it's brilliant how it works. They
Right.
actually found a way based on where your camera's positioned. If your camera looks like you hit something, even though if you were to turn it, you actually missed by a mile, it still registers as a hit because you thought it did. And that's like, you don't even realize that they're doing that kind of thing. There's so much work put into this.
Right,
I love how they hid so many things all over the world. There's like, it encourages me to explore so much, find all the little capsules. It makes you want to go back and like 100% the game just because of the way that those levels are designed so well. And allowing Kirby to explore everything and like swap up abilities, try new things. Yeah, sell me on A Hat in Time.
So for A Hat in Time, you know how you love Super Mario Sunshine?
I do love Super Mario Sunshine.
Basically, think of an indie version of that game. Whereas it's mission-based, so each world has a set amount of timepieces or hourglass you have to go and find. The movement the kid has in this game, and that is her canonical name, the Kid.
The
I
Kid.
love it. Yep, the Kid. The movement and the options she has available to her is superb. So she has a double jump, she has a dive mechanic, and she has an ability to kind of get up from a slide or a dive to quickly make it so that way you can adjust your trajectory if you need to. There's so much that helps facilitate the platforming, like in the first world alone, in the Mafia town. Ropes that are connected along to flagpoles and stuff that you can jump on, and that can combo into a double jump, which you can then wall run up the side of a building, jump off that.
They did a lot with this.
They really did. There's little capsules like the coins that you can collect to get extra hearts and stuff. You can replay certain missions to get more story bits, or just to visit certain segments of the story you actually liked.
Right.
It's a very cozy game, but at the same time, it's got an edge to it, where it's not afraid to go to weird places and use the story or scenarios to really subvert your expectations for what the game is about in terms of its 3D platforming. There is a murder mystery you actually play as one of the levels.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that one.
And the one of the worlds that you play as, you basically sell your soul to the Not Devil, and you actually have to do chores for him to get it back in a weird open. And then the penultimate world is this true 3D open world area. Each world represents a different aspect of 3D platforming, which I think really helps facilitate it. And the other thing I like too is that it also has those challenge rooms like Super Mario Sunshine has, where it's like these weird geometrical shapes in space, which really puts your 3D platforming to the test in order to get through to get the timepiece. That's why I think this game is so good, and almost a bit of a better 3D platformer than Kirby.
I'll take you there, so I'll let you at least make the decision.
I will still stay Hat in Time.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
I'm glad it didn't just show up late in the game here and just get knocked
Right.
out.
As much as I adore Kirby, I think it's more because of the charms and the nostalgia I have for the series.
We are,
I know,
think
I'm
three. Oh yeah, we're over time again. But there's 3 of these that are new after this, so hopefully it's gonna be faster on the way down.
All right.
So we have Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury and Sonic Adventure 2 Battle.
I would say that 3D World just by itself trumps Sonic Adventure, but that with Bowser's Fury.
And then Bowser's Fury, yes. I was gonna say that is so cool with what that is. If we get a new Mario game that is based on that, the whole thing.
Oh my gosh. And you don't even, and what I would love to see is that they take out the power-ups mechanic and just have it maybe a sort of a Mario Odyssey vibe where you don't have to be reliant on power-ups.
Yeah, not power-ups, but just utilize something in the area.
Yeah.
I don't know, it doesn't have to be the capture mechanic per se, but
and be
something
kind of like
like
Breath
that.
of the Wild, where to get to Bowser's Castle you have to do all these shenanigans to be able to get there. That'd be so cool.
Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy or Grow Home.
Oh my god.
Zach, I'm gonna make you do it.
Oh, Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy.
Okay.
I love Grow Home, but it's not a more precise 3D platformer, which is what I'd be looking for in something
kind of
like
looking at all the Spyro games
exactly.
on it too.
Yeah, exactly. So Crash Bandicoot.
Right, well, it has finally showed up. We have Banjo-Kazooie and Jet Set Radio Future. It's Banjo.
It is Banjo.
It's Banjo.
As much as I love Jet Set Radio, it's Banjo all the way.
Yeah, Banjo is easily one of the best 3D platformers. I could see that one going all the way, but it probably won't.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Super Mario Odyssey versus Psychonauts.
Oh, God.
It's a shame to see Psychonauts go, but I do not see anything.
I think I like Psychonauts overall as an experience, but nowhere near as much as Super Mario
Yeah, we
Odyssey.
even keep going back comparing things to Odyssey when we try to describe how good they can be. So it's kind of just
Can you tell we love 3D Mario? Just in general.
Well, I wish other franchises were able to do this. We tried to make this list. We were trying to make more things to show up in here.
What do you want us to include, Buck Bumble?
People aren't making them.
I know.
Banjo-Tooie versus Ape Escape.
I think Ape Escape is the better game overall.
I agree.
It's a lot more fun.
I was surprised Banjo-Tooie even made it an extra round further.
Yeah, I know.
Spyro Reignited versus Rocket Robot on Wheels.
Oh no.
Yeah, that one's a cut right to your heart.
Oh my god, my childhood. Oh my god, both series my childhood. I'd still say though, in terms of just the
as
more
a 3D
pleasurable
platformer
experience, as a 3D platformer, Spyro the Dragon. Yeah. You know me too well.
I know.
Well,
even still, I probably would have started fighting you all right, Zach.
Yeah,
Rocket Robot's
nostalgia.
Rocket Robot's cool and all, but But, I mean...
I know.
How about New Super Lucky's Tale or Super Mario Galaxy? It's Galaxy.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want this to turn into like a bunch of Mario games against each other at the end, but like I said, nobody's making these.
No,
or at least not at that quality level. Like, nobody's aiming for that anymore.
I would still say, especially if it's on sale digitally, please try New Super Lucky's Tale.
Yeah,
I think it's honestly worth your time.
There is a demo.
Yeah,
There is a demo. Go for the demo.
Yeah.
Super Mario Galaxy 2 or Metroid Prime. Well, if we're talking about which one's a definitive 3D platform,
It's Galaxy 2.
It's Galaxy 2. I mean, I'm surprised Metroid Prime even made it this far. This is one of those that we kind of meant to chaff our way out to say, like, hey, the 3D platforming is really cool in this game.
But when you really get down to it, though, it is a really good 3D
It is.
platformer at heart.
It is. I know.
Strangely enough.
It is. It's really good. Yeah, so Super Mario 64 or Jak and Daxter.
Oh, God.
You know, Super Mario 64 does have its problems. A lot of people have nostalgia praise over that game. I'd say one of the biggest issues with it is it has to spit you out every time you get a star, no matter what kind of star it is. Even if, like, you gathered, like...
all the 8 red coins. You can't just go out and find another one.
Exactly, or you got, like, 90 coins, and you were just about to get the big 100 one for that level, and you touched one, maybe by mistake. Some are so easy to touch. You know, you could just like break a single box. Oh, there's a star inside.
Yep.
It kicks you out of the whole level.
Or you accidentally collect a coin in the most inopportune place, and the star spawns like over a pit.
Yep, things like that can happen. It's bad. So it's not pristine. But granted, it was coming from what, Jumping Flash, which we didn't even see on this list. Where was Jumping Flash?
I think we accidentally kind of got rid of it entirely.
Oh, okay. Well, Jumping Flash. Pretend it was in that one spot before. It still wouldn't have won because it's like the first of its time. It's really cool that it got to do it, but it's not like nailing it. It's not the definitive one. It would, if anything, it would be a darn shame to the medium if that was the definitive one because we started here, you know.
Exactly.
But Mario 64 versus Jak and Daxter.
God, what has the better 3D platforming? Both you can really express yourself so
Yeah, they thought of so many
easily.
things to let Mario do. Just moving him to 3D. Not just like the wall kicks, but the triple jumps, the backflips, and all of it matters too to help get you around the world.
I don't want to sound like I have nostalgia glasses on. I think though, if I wanted to go back and play something and just go through it all the way, it would be Super Mario 64.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to get into. It's so much more expressive. And with Jak and Daxter, you're also going through a lot of cutscenes, and that's the beginning of Naughty Dog's obsession with a lot of story and cutscenes.
Yeah, I was thinking that, it's not really...
The 3D platforming is a lot of fun in that game.
Right. I mean, it made it this far.
Yes, exactly.
Against a bunch of other chaffy stuff, but hey, we're trying. A Hat in Time versus Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury.
It's
Zach,
3D World and Bowser's
yeah,
Fury.
it's gonna fall eventually, but hey, it managed to beat out, what was that?
A Kirby.
Kirby. I'm still very shocked by that. But even still, even if this was Kirby in Bowser's Fury, I would still say it's Bowser's Fury. Even if it's just that one level. That's really all Bowser's Fury is. That one level. That one amazing level.
It's the size of a giant Odyssey level, but seamless, basically, with a lot more stuff.
It feels
in there.
bigger. It might be bigger. I'm not sure.
might
Like, some of
very
those
well be,
stages
yeah.
are enormous.
Anyway.
Crash Bandicoot, the Insane Trilogy, or Banjo-Kazooie. Now we're actually getting into the 3D platformer versus 3D platformer. Though they're very different kinds. This is Naughty Dog doing the run in a certain direction.
Yep, just
versus
run forward or run backwards.
Banjo-Kazooie, you got your open world.
Yeah. Now, whereas Insane Trilogy, I think, is more of a test of skill as in your 3D platforming to get through the levels. Banjo-Kazooie is more of like a head scratcher, kind of forcing you. It's a test of your environmental awareness and how you can use your abilities to get to where you need to go to get the jiggies.
It's kind of like a 3D puzzle platformer.
In some
if
ways,
you want to call it a puzzle. You know, you got a giant monkey throwing oranges at you, and there's like a little stamp on the floor with an orange symbol on it.
Yeah.
You know. Use your brain.
Yeah, exactly. Right, but that's where the environmental awareness comes in.
Exactly.
And especially for later levels, that is paramount, especially with something like Click Clock Wood. Oh my god.
That's so cool. Versus like Crash, where that's almost like a 2D platformer who really doesn't want to stray from being a 2D platformer.
Right.
I know that sounds weird, but like everything else like tried to do like invent the camera, invent the 3D running around a 3D space kind of thing, and Crash is more of like sure, you're breaking boxes, and it's more so about like trying to get 100% in a level, or either do it really quickly, as opposed to explore the whole thing. So, as the definitive 3D platformer,
Banjo.
Yeah.
Like
even
I said,
with the whole trilogy in there.
Yeah, you're kind of looking at almost two different aspects.
Yeah.
But the 3D platforming, I think, is more central in something like you said, like with Banjo-Kazooie, than it is Crash. So
Yeah.
I can get behind that. That's fine.
Okay, we are so close.
We are so close.
Super Mario Odyssey versus Ape Escape. I think it's the end of Ape Escape.
Sure. Fine.
What do you mean, sure?
No, do it. Just do it. Just do it.
It has to happen.
I don't want to argue and make this video longer.
No.
Just go.
Spyro the Dragon Reignited versus Mario Galaxy.
Okay, now this one, I would honestly say I kind of think Spyro the Dragon is better than Galaxy.
I was
in
not
some
going
ways.
to argue otherwise.
You weren't?
No.
Oh, phew. Okay, good.
No.
Okay, do we
I'm not just like a weird Mario fanatic.
Right.
It's just Mario tends to make really high quality 3D platformers.
That's very
all it
true.
is.
Because it comes down to nitpicks for me with this. With Galaxy, I enjoyed almost everything, but like when the planetoids start really messing with you and how
The gravity gets weird and you're just trying to do
Yes.
something and you're getting kind of nauseous, like zipping around one thing, like, and then you get sucked into a black hole. Like, oh, come on!
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's just a lot of those little things. Whereas Spyro the Dragon, it uses all of the tools in your arsenal to the fullest to facilitate the exploration and the collectathon aspect.
One of the few parts I really didn't like in Galaxy as well were some of the bits where they just like switched you into, all right, point at the screen, push the A button while you're facing this little star, now push the A button at the next little star, and then the next one, and Mario is just like stuck in a ball, and you're taken out of the game completely and playing something else.
Stick the Wiimote straight up and tilt it in order like you're using a joystick to move Mario around on the ball. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of stuff that actually takes away from it over time.
Or
so.
the manta ray races.
Oh.
I'm so glad I don't have to deal with that.
You're thinking of Sunshine?
No,
Or was
no,
that
I'm
also-
talking. No.
Oh yeah, that wasn't. Yeah, I remember.
Oh
man.
Hold it vertically and tilt it,
I
and
was
try
so
not to turn
frustrated.
your whole hand.
And you're doing it over a void too. So
Yep.
yeah, one little mistake and you're dead.
Hope you're not holding forward too far, or else you just speed off the edge.
That's so frustrating.
Exactly.
But anyway,
yeah.
now we have a head-to-head Mario 3D versus Mario 3D.
Oh.
Galaxy 2 or 64?
I don't know. Both have their. When you really get right down to it, both have a lot of quibbles and a lot of flaws. Like, what kind of makes it? Do you want to go with the one that originated the 3D platformer as we know it today, or perfected it more or less at the time, or do you want to go for the one that kind of takes that in a new direction, but basically is a rehash of a lot of ideas that just couldn't fit into Mario Galaxy 1?
How about this? If you're going to tell a developer who wants to make a new indie 3D platformer, tell them which game they have to do better than.
64.
Yeah? Okay.
I'll go with Mike.
Well, that's what we're going for, so.
Yeah.
I had to ask
like
you because
Galaxy a lot.
yeah, I haven't even gotten to play 2. I've wanted to play 2.
It feels better than Mario Galaxy 1, but it still has some of its little quibbles that it just brings with it, unfortunately.
yeah.
What do we got?
Mario 3D World Bowser's Fury or Banjo-Kazooie.
Ooh.
Let's use that same scenario. You're trying to figure out, all right, tell somebody who's working on a game, and you're like, okay, so which of these two is more important? You know this genre, right? And
Yeah.
and I want to build this kind of game. What should I work from?
Personally, I would say something like Bowser's Fury, because that just feels like a next evolutionary step to something like Banjo-Kazooie.
Yeah, if you're building it, yeah, I think that might be the game to beat of what you're doing in this scenario. Because even though Banjo-Kazooie is similar to, even if you put Banjo-Kazooie next to Mario 64, I think Banjo wins.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just a better 3D platform, and it might be like on the N64 and even in that era, that's the game to beat.
Now, if we were comparing Banjo-Kazooie to Super Mario 3D World, I would say Banjo-Kazooie hands down. But it's that... See, this is what I wish Bowser's Fury could have been. It could have been like its own separate thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they could have sold it just based on that. That's the problem.
I'm really happy with what they did with Bowser's Fury.
Oh, absolutely.
And hopefully that just shows us what they're going to be doing in the future.
I think it does, and I'm excited for Mario's 3D
All right, we are
future.
so close to the end. Super Mario Odyssey or Spyro the Dragon Reignited.
Okay. What are you thinking? What's your gut?
Well, there's a Juggernaut, and then there's Spyro. That's what I'm thinking.
I'm thinking there's an amazing game.
There's 2 amazing games. We're not... Hold on. You know something that's really, really weird that I need to point out right now?
Yeah, what's
At
up?
this very moment, I haven't even started writing this, but I've actually told you what my next Playing With Myself review is going to be.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be the game that you guys watching this video already know because it's already up by the time this video goes up. Think about that, Zach. Isn't that weird?
Oh, that's
Tell
cool.
me how my video was that I just started making in the future, but in the past. Yeah.
Time is a strange thing.
Isn't that weird? I haven't even started writing it. But yeah, it's Odyssey.
Is
okay.
it, though?
Yes.
Okay.
So much more. Okay, so if I have to argue for Odyssey, I don't know if we've actually gotten to speak about this yet.
Not too much, no.
Not only does this take advantage of what 3D Mario has done up to this point of like having large areas where you can just explore freely and just really get into what the platforming is. There are things hidden everywhere for you to explore and discover. Spyro does the same thing. However, the thing that Odyssey does that just one-ups it is every single world has new unique things that you can use Cappy and just like take over, and it just changes the whole level. And it's genius. There's whole levels that are just based on completely new enemies that show up, and you do weird things to interact with them, and all of a sudden like the game is just, it just keeps evolving on what you can do with a 3D platformer where you're not changing characters, you're just switching which you're currently possessing, and it's just changing the whole flavor of everything up. There's so much you can explore with it. It's just so, every corner of every map is so well thought out and designed and polished. It's just like 3D platforming perfection to me.
Go ahead.
I don't want to push one, but Spyro is really just like, I mean, you can glide and breathe fire, and there's gems around.
And the later games start adding, especially 3, starts adding a lot more gimmicks and side games that kind of
right.
attract,
And that's what I'm saying.
I see.
Yeah, whereas like Mario Odyssey beginning to end is nothing but that. And I feel like it has weirdly explored so much into what a 3D platformer can be that like nothing on this list is even doing it nearly that level.
Well, what about
as
this
opposed
matchup?
to we actually just talked about this, as opposed to Bowser's Fury. It's Bowser's Fury versus 64. And once again, I think it's gonna be Bowser's Fury. I don't want to play like the new stuff only. I tend to be the nostalgia guy and saying the old stuff wins. Yeah, so this is kind of strange that I'm jumping out saying no, it's Odyssey. But Bowser's Fury, I think in a totally different vein of making that larger area that's more traditional to Mario. You have the power-ups and everything, and you still have this large area, and then like strange, like, I don't call like the giant Bowser a gimmick, but it kind of turns into that in the end.
Yeah.
But like it keeps changing the whole level up, because sometimes you'll be in the middle of some platforming thing, you're trying to collect some red coins or something, and Bowser shows up. Yeah, and now you are dodging this monstrosity and like trying to get back to where you were before. And the whole reason like everything is designed there is knowing that at any moment that can happen.
Yeah.
Or if you have that Bowser amiibo and you're like us, you just do it constantly.
Yep.
It's funny.
Hey, you know what? It's too quiet. Bowser!
Yeah, so I guess, wow, it hurts saying like of the definitive 3D
and the thing
platformer.
too is you also have to keep in mind we're also including Super Mario 3D World as well.
I know, and we're just looking at Bowser's Fury, and 3D World is a very good game.
No, it really is. Because see, coming from 3D Land to playing 3D World, I didn't expect to like it that much because I wasn't the biggest fan of 3D Land.
It seems a little simple.
It really is, but with 3D,
it's good, I like it.
But with 3D World, it's basically what I think 3D Land should have been.
But the 3DS might have been holding it back.
Probably, yeah.
So, where are you thinking?
I say 64.
Yeah? Well, you know, see, this is hard. It's another one of those, like, okay, so we're trying to decide the definitive one to beat, and this is so difficult. Didn't we just say that this, like, Banjo-Kazooie fell to this and saying, well, that's the same reason? I don't know. I don't want to be a hypocrite and then, like, switch it around. That'd be really strange.
No.
But, like...
No, well, okay.
In terms of the actual design of where things have gone, and Bowser's Fury in 3D World only happens because of 64, and it's building off of everything there.
Right.
But it still doesn't have those worlds that... Okay, here, how about this? We already know Odyssey is in for the finals. We're really just determining what else is going to be in there. If it's 64, 64 loses.
Oh, absolutely.
Odyssey is an objectively better Mario 64. So I think this is a better conversation if we push Bowser's Fury ahead.
Yeah.
And try and see
and I don't have
what's
as
better.
many quibbles with those as I do with 64. Even though 64 is one of my favorites.
Oh, me too.
So,
me too.
Let's go ahead and discuss.
There it is. The two going head-to-head. Super Mario Odyssey or Super Mario 3D World Bowser's Fury. You know what's great, I guess? Even though we were just complaining this whole time saying nobody's really making these 3D platformers, those are both new games, and they're both on a Nintendo Switch.
Yep.
Unfortunately, they're the same series.
Uh-huh.
I really wish that we had completely different things popping up here. I swear, we're not biased. We're not like big Mario people or anything.
No, I mean, I am a big Mario person.
Okay,
personally.
I really love
My
Mario
thing,
too.
though,
But
is,
yeah,
well, you saw I got hung up on Spyro.
it can happen.
Yeah. So, because here's the thing, like we said at the beginning, 3D platformers kind of evolved after the N64 PS1 generation.
Yeah,
Basically,
kind of phased into the background.
Yeah, it kind of turned.
They became an element.
Different. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and not like the showcase.
Exactly. Right.
But these games are the showcase, and that's what's so rare about them. And I wish we had some more about it.
Right, because I would love to see like I don't know, like a Sony 3D platformer.
Yes.
I mean, we have Sackboy, but I would say that's more like a Super Mario 3D World game and not the definitive 3D platformer.
Yeah, anything that I've seen Sony do, there's other things too, like, the God of War games. Like, technically you're doing 3D platforming, but that is not the focus. It's just in the background, as opposed to something like either of these two games.
I'd love to also see Microsoft try and make like a new 3D platformer kind of game,
Yeah,
somebody with
anybody.
money and time, but
Anybody. And don't just leave it to indies with grand ideas on Kickstarter, because we see what happens. It can succeed. It can, but like it never gets that notoriety.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I haven't yet played stuff like Demon Turf or what's the other one? There's quite a few that came out recently.
There's a lot. There are still, but they're never like first and foremost like.
And we didn't even include some of the other mascot platformers from the time that just kind of fell by the wayside, like.
Because that's the thing. Are you gonna say like, Bubsy 3D? Are you gonna say that that's the definitive 3D platformer?
No, absolutely not.
In which case, if you are going to say one of these two games right in front of us right now is the definitive 3D platformer,
I am going to say Odyssey.
It's Super Mario Odyssey. Though, I think what Bowser's Fury's best elements are just being like Odyssey.
Yeah. It's an evolution of it, and it's a much more seamless experience.
It makes me really excited to see what the next Mario 3D World will be, because it seems like this is them testing it, like, oh, how does this work? And then, assuming that does, build that glorious new 3D Mario game.
Yes, give me like a Breath of the Wild Mario game.
Oh my goodness, how do you do that?
Exactly.
That'd be so cool. But yeah, that's where they could take it.
Yeah.
But as of now, I think it's Odyssey, standing on top.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh, and it just kicks me out of everything. All right, that's the end. Oh no, I can scroll down at least and see it here, but yeah. Anyway, that was huge, and we thought this was going to be a faster one. We swear we're not trying to like teach you about every single one of these games as we go through it, but a lot of these we're like, okay, we're trying to justify them as a 3D platformer. So hopefully when we do something like RPGs or another one next, or whatever genre we do, we're gonna be like, okay, so Chrono Trigger does this thing. I really love this for that, but Xenoblade 3 is just
right. And hopefully we didn't really waffle that much with this or flip-flop our perspectives. But there's just so many weird edge cases, and there's so many weird things that kind of pop up with some of these games.
Yeah.
You kind of have to take them into account. And for me, it's all about that expression, the player expression through the moveset. That really, I think, is the thing that defines the 3D platform.
And I think that's why something like Metroid Prime actually showed up and kept going on for so long, because even though you think you're really just doing like the Metroidvania part, in a lot of the other modern games, in the background, the 3D platforming, it's actually doing a lot of interesting things as you play that, and it's aiding you in making it more interesting.
Right, whereas where we had that reversed with the 2D Metroid games, it's more about the exploration of the power-ups themselves versus your actual getting around the terrain.
The 2D traversal is something that just kind of happens when you get better stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So
anyway, wow. Okay, we have no idea what kind of genre we're going to do next. Hopefully this episode didn't edit down into something monstrous. This guy's moving, so
It's gonna be a while.
We're trying.
I've got like 15 days to get that to get out.
Like I said, I didn't even start writing the next episode for Playing With Myself, and you are watching it. You should have already seen it before this episode. Anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning into this giant episode of HITBOX. If you enjoyed the show, you can help us keep it alive by supporting us on Patreon with the links in the show notes and this video's description. For those of you on YouTube, remember to like this video and subscribe for more, and be sure to let us know what you thought of the show and what other topics you'd like to hear us cover in the future. And special thanks to all of our Patreon members. You'd think by now I would just like say that once and just record it, and we'd slap it at the end of the video. I wouldn't have to keep doing this, but anyway, it's like a...
See ya.